Boom, baby. Welcome to an episode of the Boom Breakdown. We're going to break down a UFC 227. Not all the fights, but some of the fights. And I'm really excited for this bantamweight rematch coming up with Cody and TJ. It's going to be awesome. Obviously, the first fight we saw TJ come away with that KO victory. TKO, I would say. I don't think he was really out all the way, but with that first fight, TJ looked sharp. He almost got caught in round one and somewhat got saved by the bell, but also recovered quick and came back sharp in round two. And if you notice, when he did get caught, he was dodging shots while he was on his knees that Cody was throwing hooks on him while he was down. So he was pretty aware for being hurt. And then the bell obviously helped him out there too. But with that first fight, obviously there's a lot of rumors. And Cody's team saying that Cody didn't have a camp, really. He's coming off some back injuries. He was getting shots in his back. So, that could be a big deal going into a fight. It was kind of a crazy dynamic because Team Alpha Male was really firing away at TJ and really trying to get in his head and calling a lot of stuff out about him, about his past, about cheap shotting Holdsworth and being a dirty partner in the gym and how Cody knocked him out in sparring and stuff like that. And then they released a video of it that like a couple days before the fight. They did a lot of things to try to get in TJ's head, and now TJ holds all the power because he came away with a victory like that, and you really can't act cocky after something like that. So TJ holds all the power as far as the psychological game goes, but I've seen a different Cody this time around. He seems a little bit more humbled, which is good. That means he learned from that, and he seems a little more quiet. So what that is to say about the fight, who knows? Sometimes this all is looked into too much, and the fight is just a fight, And to be honest, what an interesting thing is sometimes fighters take fights on short notice, and they perform better than other fights that they've had a full camp for, a full preparation. So who's to really say what that means and what role that plays into a fight? Obviously, your preference is going to be to have a full camp, but sometimes it takes a lot of the pressure off for you if you have no lead up to a fight and you kind of just get thrown in there with a nice opportunity to come out with a big win and shock the world. So obviously with Cody not having that preparation that he would like, and now he's saying he had a full camp, this could change things in this fight. I think that it will. I think the Cody that fought Dominic Cruz, that was really sharp for 5 rounds, really accurate, really fast, really powerful. We're going to see more of that Cody this fight. Now, what I see in fights that are rematch fights is a lot of respect being shown. Once you're in there with somebody and they gain your respect, it's different the second time around. You're confident, but you also have a little bit of a resistance because you understand that guy's dangerous and what that guy brings to the table. Cody being knocked out in the first fight, we know he's going to come into this fight having that in the back of his mind, whether or not he has a full camp and believes in himself or not. That's a factor that plays a role in the fight, and I think we're going to see a little bit slower of a start in this fight where they show a lot of respect to each other, kind of setting up, feeling each other out, see what each other's trying to do in the second fight. And ultimately, I think we're going to see a little bit of a different fight, a little bit of a longer fight, maybe 3, 4, 5 rounds. And Dillishaw might bring something different to the table where he tries to mix in a little bit more wrestling, a little bit more jiu-jitsu. He has a high-level jiu-jitsu game and high-level wrestling game. So does Cody, though. Cody's really hard to take down. Dominic Cruz takes a lot of guys down, and he couldn't take Cody down, so that says a lot. And he's a fast-twitch guy, so it's really hard to hold him down. If you get him down, he's really good at scrambling, getting back up. Ultimately in this fight, I see a little bit different of a fight going on. I think, if we can say that Cody really was injured in that fight and his timing was off, he didn't have sparring in his training camp, and that could be a big effect on him. This fight, he's saying he had a full training camp, feels great. If this is the truth, I see a different Cody showing up. And I see a guy who's very powerful, very fast, and very confident that he's going to come in and find that mark within, the 3rd or 4th round. I think the fight's going to be a little slower, like I said, so it's going to go on a little bit longer. TJ's going to have his successes. Cody's going to have his successes. But we're going to see more respect. And with more respect comes a little bit longer of a fight, I feel. And so I think the fight's going to go third or fourth round. And I think Cody's going to get the job done in the third or fourth with a TKO or KO victory. I think he's going to find that chin again. But this time it's going to be, before the bell sounds. And he's going to be able to get the finish. Hard fight to call, Migs. There's a lot of psychological things that play into it. There's a lot of different things that play into the fight, but that's I'm going with Cody in this fight. I could see a trilogy fight being set up with this win too. And this is a big deal too for TJ to win this fight. It sets him up with a fight with Demetrius Johnson in a super fight, and that's a big money fight, and probably not the biggest draw, the biggest pay-per-view draw, but that's a big money fight right there. That's a fight that they're gonna get paid to make. So this fight is really going to set up a lot of things. It's either going to be for a trilogy with Cody and TJ, or you're going to see TJ fight DJ if he can come out victorious. So really big deal for both of these fighters to get the win in this fight, but I'm going with Cody. And then we got Demetrius Johnson, who I think is pound for pound the best guy in the world. Just saying, as far as skills go, excuse me, and his well-roundedness in the cage and what he can do as a fighter. I just think he's the best fighter in the world. Obviously, pound for pound, you really got to look at like how they stack up in other weight classes, which DC pretty much holds that now with 2 titles in the different weight classes and his resume and all that. But with Henry Cejudo, he's looked amazing as of late with his hands. He kind of changed up his style to a little bit of like a karate taekwondo type style. A little different, but he looks a lot sharper. He's widened his base. He's a lot more crisp, accurate, and powerful at the weight class. And he's made waves in his last couple of fights. Looked really, really good. But ultimately, I don't think that's going to say much against Demetrius Johnson. I think no matter how good you look against other people, you're fighting Demetrius Johnson now, and this guy makes everybody look bad pretty much. Maybe it'll be a little bit more competitive of a fight. In the first fight, we saw Demetrius go to the body with that knee and kind of set what's his name? Already fucking slipping up on his name right here. Henry Cejudo. It kind of shocked him, and it set up the end of that fight. So with this fight, same with the other fight, I believe it's going to go a little bit longer. But Demetrius is just amazing everywhere. His speed, his angles, his timing, his clinch, his wrestling, his jiu-jitsu. Everything's like perfect with this guy. So you can't make any mistakes. The margin for error is so small with Demetrius that I just can't see anybody beating this guy anytime soon. It's going to take somebody who is like 19, 20 years old right now, that's about to get into the UFC, that's been training since he was 7, and he's a killer right now, and maybe that guy's the guy to beat Demetrius, someone who's evolved and on a different spectrum, the new age of MMA. That's what it's going to take to see Demetrius tested, I feel, these days. But we will see a different fight. I think Henry Cejudo will look sharp, and he will have some success in the fight with his striking and his power, but Demetrius is so hard to hit, so hard to hurt. He's going to be in and out. He's going to be playing his tricks on Henry, and ultimately he's going to come out victorious. I mean, maybe we'll see a decision. Maybe Henry won't get hurt in this fight and finished, but Demetrius is the man. Can never bet against this guy or pick against this guy. I'm going with Demetrius by decision win in this fight. And then the third fight, we got Moicano versus Cub Swanson. I like both of these guys. Moicano, very impressive in his last fight against Calvin Kattar, who is a very, very solid striker, and Moicano kind of made him look amateur in that fight. I mean, like, not in a bad way, but he just picked him apart on the feet. He just seemed a little bit one step ahead of him, a little sharper, a little bit more accurate, and I was like surprised to see that, because before that fight I was thinking Calvin Kattar has such amazing striking, pinpoint accuracy, really fast, throws a lot of punches and bunches. He's long for the weight class. I thought he was going to be able to pick Moicano apart, and we saw the exact opposite. Moicano's a guy who's very smart. He has very high fight IQ. His movement's good. He knows how to outpoint guys. He's not necessarily the biggest finisher, but he's a guy who knows how to land strikes, avoid, stay at the range that he feels comfortable at, and just pinpoint accuracy, speed, and mixing up the punches with the kicks really well. And I think in this fight, Cub Swanson coming off 2 losses, he's got his back against the fence. I mean, he's a very dynamic fighter who's very good at mixing it up and switching stances and doing tricky things on the feet. And he's good everywhere too, but Moicano, I think, is on the up climb. He's got a lot of momentum going behind him, and he's really confident right now. And this guy's got really nasty Muay Thai, really pinpoint accuracy in his strikes. And I think, unfortunately, we're going to see Cub Swanson take a 3rd loss in a row, which I would like to see Cub come back and get a big victory here, but I just don't see it. I think Moicano's, he's just on another level right now with his striking, and he's vicious. He's very aggressive, and he sets the pace really high in the fight. He had a lot of success against Brian Ortega before he got finished, and Ortega's about to challenge for a title, so I think that says a lot about Moicano. And I could see him coming out with a TKO victory in the 2nd or 3rd round against Cub. But that'll be my top 3 picks for this fight. We got Cody coming with the 2nd fight. He's going to win this one, I think, late 4th round or so. We got DJ, can never pick against him. And then we got Moicano. Those are my 3 picks for the top 3 fights. Otherwise, this is an amazing card, and we got a bunch of cool fights, on the undercard. I like the Munoz and Johns fight. That's a very evenly matched fight, and 2 guys that are very similar in their strengths, and pretty equal on the feet. I would say that Munoz has the advantage on the ground as far as jiu-jitsu goes, but we've seen Johns throw that crazy submission on Joe Soto with the calf slice, so that was pretty cool to see. And it's really hard to pick that fight too, but I'm really interested. I got my eye on that one. If I was to pick a guy, I would say Munoz by decision, but that's a pick 'em fight. Another guy I was really impressed with was Jackson from the Contender Series, and he's fighting Ricky Simon, and that guy had some really good poise and really good striking, and he had some fast hands. So Simon is coming off a win, but kind of a controversial win against Merab, and he didn't look amazing in that fight. It looked like Merab was really pushing the pace and putting pressure on him and was winning the fight before the end. So with this guy Jackson, with his pinpoint strikes, really crisp boxing, really good poise and calm in there, cool, calm, collected, I think he's going to come away with a win here and have a really impressive debut. So I would go with Jackson on that fight. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, otherwise, quick picks. We got Perez versus Torres. Torres kind of had that lucky win the first fight with that slam. Guy pretty much knocked himself out. Was winning the fight, I feel, until that point. But, Torres had that debut win by slam KO. The guy pretty much fucking KO'd himself. Perez has really slick jiu-jitsu, really good Doris Anaconda chokes. I would go with Perez in that fight by submission. We got Thiago Santos versus Holland from the Contender Series. That's another interesting fight as far as a guy making his debut against a guy who is, pretty far into his career in the UFC and has done big things and has devastating power. But you just never know, man. You got guys get opportunities on debuts. It could be a big upset fight, a big underdog, but you can't count guys out on their debut fight, man. They're trying to make an impression on the UFC, on the matchmakers, and sometimes those guys are the most dangerous. So I don't know who I'd pick in that fight. Probably Santos, but I don't bet against debut fighters, man. Those guys have fire in them, and they're trying to make big statements, and that's the time to do it. So we'll see what happens, but that's it for now. Top 3 fights, break those down. I like to keep it kind of short and sweet with these things. I don't really go through the whole card, but I'll release my full card picks coming up later in the week, probably tomorrow or Friday. And that's it, baby. So stay tuned. Hopefully I got some fight news for you guys soon. I can't wait to get back in there, get redemption. Fired up, been training hard, feeling good. Boom, baby. Chill.